Shabbat Shalom. I don't know how many of you checked our synagogue's Facebook, but last week I went to a protest for the hostages, and it was Sunday, which, as you may remember, was quite a cold day. It was -10, -25 with the wind chill, and so I thought, getting out of the car, there's going to be 10 of us and maybe a TV crew someone called. But as I started walking to there, I was really surprised to see how many people there were, and there were hundreds of people. And we were in the freezing cold, and they gave us those hand warming aids that don't really work. But it was very powerful. Everybody was there. We felt very good about being there, and I think the hostages are just such an emotional issue for us, such an emotional issue for the Jewish people. And somehow this week, because it's been 100 days since the hostages were taken, I feel like I saw many videos and many statements, and the hostages were everywhere. The one I saw was a video of many musicians at the Caesarea Amphitheater. I don't know if any of you saw that one, thousands all playing a song. And it was amazing to see. There was maybe 50 guitar players and 50 violin players and 50 drum players. And at the end, they just said, La baita, home, take them home, bring them home, bring them home. And it made me think of family members and so many people in this congregation everywhere, all around the Jewish world, wearing those tags for the hostages to just bring them home. And it's powerful for us, I think, for many different reasons. And one of it is maybe that we've taken not having to deal with a loss of freedom like this for granted for generations. And somehow the thought of what happened, and even from the very beginning, from the first moment that I heard of what had happened, I had the same emotion that's been with me the whole time, which was, this is a complete disaster, and this could not be. We have to do everything in our power to bring them home. Because of how precious it is to be free, something we haven't always experienced. And also maybe it's galvanized us, the Jewish people, because of our traumatic history, and because it really touches at a very tender place to see Jews in the hands of merciless Jew haters and having no sense of what might actually happen to them, and knowing the darkness that they're in. And it just touches on a very raw nerve. And part of it is that we're all mishpacha, right? We play mahjong with the family of the person, of the mother of the hostage, or we know someone who knows someone, or we know those who were in the October 7th massacre. And because we're all family, it's almost as if our own child is in danger. When our child is in danger, we stop everything. We say, what can I do? What can we do? And we rush with all of our being to stop their suffering. Just tell me whatever I can do. It's also because a lot of them are, especially the ones left, are young people, and they were just doing what young people do. They were dancing at a concert, and they were taken hostage, and it upsets us because young Israelis especially have enough on their shoulders, having to serve in the IDF, having to face all that danger. And for these young people to have to face this darkness, it's not something that we thought as Jews would happen again in this massive way. And we thought we'd gone beyond that. And it's a symbol, perhaps, for how we've been feeling since October 7th, that sense of being powerless, a powerlessness we didn't think we would feel again. And with the rising anti-Semitism, feels we're like the boy putting his fingers in the dike, trying to get it from bursting. And so what do we do? It's the big question. How do we respond with our brothers and sisters taken hostage? And there's no answer except the one that we keep being called to, is we do everything we have to do because there's absolutely no other choice. And this is what Jews, even it's in our collective consciousness, because Jews have endured this for millennia, been taken captured and tortured and hostage. We have a story of the rabbi who created the Unatane Tokef prayer that we sing on high holidays. He was a rabbi who was taken hostage, and he came back, and there was barely any life left in him. He was crippled, and the last action was to walk into the synagogue and say the words of the Unatane Tokef prayer and then die. And it sounds legendary, but it captures the spirit of what people have endured with hostages. And so often we had no power. There were always some in our community that had means. And so those who knew that asked for exorbitant sums. And so Jews throughout history have paid enormous sums to release captives, huge sums. And most of the time we were just helpless when this happened to us over and over through the centuries. And so we developed many prayers. We have many prayers for hostages. Achenu kol beit Yisrael, our brothers and sisters who are given over to trouble or captivity, whether they abide on the sea or on the dry land. May the All-Present have mercy on them and bring them forth from trouble to expansion, from darkness to light, from subjugation to redemption, now speedily in the near time. We say this after every weekday Torah service. Last week there was a very moving video of hundreds of thousands of people singing that at the Kotel, at the Western Wall. And we have so many. We have one of our 10 morning blessings of gratitude. Thank you for allowing me to walk with a straight back, and thank you for releasing the bounds of the captives, because that's how often it happened. And so, but what is our response from all of it? Our response is how precious it is just to have freedom, just to have what we feel, what we interpret as normal freedom. And that when we feel hopeless because of that captivity of our fellows, of ourselves, that's where our thoughts automatically turn to. And it all goes back to this story of our parasha, and that's so central to our Jewish people. We were in hardship, we were in captivity, a whole people. We cried out to God, the miracles and wonders, and somehow we were led out of all of it. And we reread this story in every little detail over and over, year after year, Pesach after Pesach, gathering entire families with this strange but wonderful meal of symbols to recreate that preciousness of being out of Egypt, because we can't take it for granted. And everything we read today, that having to seize freedom because of how precious it is, and not turning in any other direction, not letting anything get in the way, eating fast, just going after it, having the crackers instead of bread, sandals on our feet, waiting all night for the plague to pass, for finally having that freedom. And really what the slaves experienced when they walked out of Egypt was what we have experienced for the last 75 years, which is just the freedom to be a little bit normal, as we've experienced here in America, not to have hopelessness, but to have some hope in our world, to flourish, not to have shame, but to have some pride and everything, to live in the suburbs and just have regular, normal lives, and to be able to send our kids to college without worrying about them, have successes and just the regular failures of every other people. One of the aspects that struck me of that video that I mentioned, of all those musicians playing at the Caesarea Amphitheater, was how normal all those musicians looked. Some had dyed hair, and they could have been from any Mediterranean country. It could have been Spain or Greece, and the Brits brought home what a normal country Israel has been, despite everything that's happened over the last 75 years. And despite it all, built a normal, regular life, normal-ish, because there have been so many stressors. But despite it all, they built a normal country, and where people have flourished and built wonderful lives, and used that freedom that they got immediately. The moment we got that freedom, we suddenly started to flourish, because that's in our genes. We know when you have that freedom, that's what you use your freedom for, not to go back after the people who oppressed you before, but just to move forward. And to see or to worry that that might go away from us, that normality is what is so painful, and what we're trying to fight for. And I think it's why so many of us turn up on that Sunday, that cold Sunday this week, because we felt so strongly that whatever happens, we're not going to let go of our love of freedom and our preciousness of freedom. And it's why in the past, I just don't see how we can do it this time, we gave 1,000 prisoners for one, because this is how precious it is for us. And deep inside, we know nothing else matters. And the beautiful lesson of our Torah portion and of this part of our people is we truly want to give this freedom to other people too, if we can. We don't want it just for ourselves. And we really want it for the Gazans too. We would love for them to have that freedom. Because we realize that when you have that freedom, that's when you can flourish, that's when you go to Sinai, that's when you go to the promised land, that's when everything truly begins. So it doesn't matter to us how long it takes or what we have to do in this amount of time in between. What we'll have to seize, what freedoms, how many fast meals we'll have to eat. But we can't lose that freedom again, because we spent 2,000 years waiting to have that freedom. And our people have sacrificed so much over the last generations for that freedom. And we'll work everything to have that freedom, and if they let us, give them that freedom too. Because we wish to live in the expanse, we wish to live in the light, we wish to live in the love, with the all-present one and with each other in peace and in love. Shabbat Shalom.